The scream tore through the quiet neighborhood like a gunshot, sharp, piercing, impossible to ignore. It was the kind of scream that didn't just travel through the air, it carved straight into the bones of anyone who heard it. Curtains slid open. Doors cracked ajar. Conversations froze. But by the time people rushed outside, the damage had already been done. 8-year-old Emily Carter lay sprawled on the sidewalk, her little leg twisted at an angle so unnatural it made grown adults flinch. Her white sock, frilled and new, was turning a frightening shade of red. The scooter she'd been riding moments ago lay abandoned a few feet away, its wheels still spinning as if refusing to accept what had happened. Her mother, Rachel Carter, sprinted toward her, stumbling as she fell to her knees. Her breath shattered into desperate fragments. Her shaking fingers fumbled with her phone as she tried to call for help, but she could hardly think. She could only hear Emily's sobs, soft and broken, seeping into the cracks of her heart. The boys who had pushed Emily, the ones older, stronger, infamous for testing the limits of every adult's patience, bolted down the street without looking back. No remorse. No fear. No soul. Just laughter echoing like poison in the air, and as Rachel cried for help, the last thing she expected was the low, thunderous rumble of motorcycle engines rolling toward her street. A sound people often associated with danger. A sound that made neighbors peek through blinds instead of stepping outside, but that day, those engines carried something different, something unexpected, something the entire town would remember forever. The paramedics arrived quickly, though for a terrified little girl shaking in her mother's arms, every second felt like an eternity. Emily's screams eventually faded into quiet whimpers, exhausted by shock and pain. Her tiny fingers clung desperately to Rachel's shirt, as if letting go meant the world would swallow her whole. Rachel's mind raced in every direction at once. She replayed the moment over and over, the shove, the fall, the crack. Guilt hung on her like a heavy chain. I should have been outside. I should have watched her. I should have, but guilt doesn't change the past, and Emily's tears didn't stop falling. As the ambulance doors closed, flashing lights reflecting off every window on the street, Rachel didn't notice what rolled to a stop at the corner. A line of motorcycles, gleaming chrome, worn leather, powerful engines rumbling low like distant thunder, the Hells Angels. People whispered about them. Some feared them. Some respected them. But that day, they were simply silent witnesses to something that shouldn't have happened to a child. Their leader, Duke Harrison, watched the ambulance fade into the distance. A tall man with a scar carved along his jaw, earned in a past he never talked about, and eyes that always seemed to be carrying someone else's pain. Something in that moment broke through armor he thought was unbreakable. Maybe because he'd once lost someone, too. Or maybe because he recognized injustice the way some people recognize the weather. Whatever the reason, Duke didn't forget the sight of that small broken body or the sound of Rachel's scream. Rachel stayed with Emily through every step, X-rays, examinations, whispered reassurances, and trembling kisses on her forehead. The doctors confirmed the fracture quickly, severe, clean, but long-term. Months of recovery. No running. No playgrounds. No dancing in the living room like she loved to do. When they finally returned home, drained and hollow, the house felt different. Too quiet. Too heavy. Too full of memories of a little girl who used to bounce through the front door instead of being wheeled inside. Rachel stared at the walls, the floors, the windows, anything except Emily's wheelchair. Because looking at it meant accepting a reality she didn't want to face. Rachel wasn't prepared for the deep rumble of engines returning the next morning. Slow. Steady. Purposeful, the same bikers. The same intimidating presence. Leather. Denim. Tattoos. Boots heavy enough to echo on the pavement. Her instinct kicked in. She stepped in front of Emily's wheelchair, shielding her like a mother bear protecting her cub, but Duke lifted his gloved hand, not aggressively, but gently. He approached the porch alone, then he placed something on the welcome mat, flowers. A small stuffed bear, and a sealed envelope. Inside it wasn't money. Not condolences. Not threats, but names, the names of the boys who hurt Emily, and where they lived. Rachel's breath caught. How how did you?" "We asked," Duke said simply. "People talk if you ask the right way." He didn't threaten that he didn't harm anyone, that he just made the neighborhood finally pay attention. Rachel didn't know what to say. She expected fear. She expected chaos. But what she felt was safety. Something she hadn't felt since yesterday. The Hells Angels came again. Then again. And again, not to intimidate. To help, they built a wooden ramp so Emily's wheelchair could glide through the front door. They repaired the fence the boys had smashed her into. They brought groceries when they learned Rachel had missed work. They brought toys, books, coloring supplies, and even a hand-painted pink cast cover decorated with butterflies and sparkles, made by one of the biker's daughters. Emily, once timid and afraid, slowly began to smile again. It wasn't quick, it wasn't perfect, but it was real, and it happened on days when the toughest men in town sat cross-legged on her porch drawing butterflies with her. People whispered louder now. "The Angels are planning something. They won't let this go. They're going to get revenge." But reality was far different. They were planning a healing. Duke organized a charity ride, not for fame, not for news, not for glory, for Emily. Hundreds of bikers rode into town wearing pink ribbons on their jackets, the roar of engines turning the sky into a heartbeat of hope. People lined the sidewalks, crying, clapping, holding signs. "Justice for Emily, stand against bullying, children deserve safety." Even the boys who hurt her were made to watch. Not through humiliation, but awareness. For the first time, they faced the magnitude of their actions, not through violence, but through compassion and unity stronger than any punishment. The money raised covered Emily's medical bills and funded anti-bullying programs in local schools. The town changed that day. Because kindness can shake a community louder than fear, recovery wasn't easy. Emily battled pain, nightmares, and frustration. But she also gained unexpected protectors. The Angels checked in often, never intruding, but always watching the neighborhood quietly, Duke especially, and eventually, the boys who hurt her were assigned community service and weekly counseling, terms Duke personally insisted on. "Redemption," he said, "is better than destruction." Months later, Emily stood, shaky, nervous, but determined. When she took her first step, Rachel cried. Duke turned away, pretending to look at the sky, wiping a tear when no one was watching, but everyone knew, because some moments break even the strongest armor. The whispers stopped, the fear dissolved, the gratitude remained. People left thank you notes on bikes, children waved at riders passing through town, parents became more vigilant, schools became safer, and Rachel, every time she heard distant motorcycle engines rumbling down the road, she didn't feel fear, she felt comfort, because she knew, good people still existed in the world. Some just wore leather instead of suits. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories, and tell us in the comments.